Imagine you're deep in the wilderness, miles from anyone. You slip, you fall, and in a split second, your world collapses. A half-ton boulder crashes down, pinning your right arm against a canyon wall. You're trapped. This isn't a horror movie. This is exactly what happened to Aron Ralston. On April 26, 2003, Aron, an experienced outdoorsman, was exploring Blue John Canyon in Utah, a remote and technical slot canyon. He was canyoneering, descending through the narrow passages alone. He hadn't told anyone where he was going. As he shimmied down a narrow chasm, a massive chalkstone, a boulder wedged between the canyon walls, came loose. He fell, and the 800-pound rock fell with him, crushing his right hand and pinning his arm against the unforgiving sandstone. The initial shock was overwhelming. Pain seared through his body, but panic was the real enemy. He screamed, but his voice was swallowed by the immense, silent desert. No one could hear him. The reality of his situation began to sink in with terrifying clarity. He was completely alone, trapped by an immovable force of nature. His first attempts were frantic. He pushed, he pulled, he heaved against the boulder with all his might. But it was useless. The rock wouldn't budge, not even a millimeter. He looked at his supplies: 2 burritos, less than a liter of water, a rope, climbing gear, and a cheap multi-tool. It was a standard day pack, not a survival kit for a multi-day ordeal. Day 1 blurred into night. The desert sun, which had baked him relentlessly, gave way to a chilling cold. Shivering in the darkness, Aron rationed his water, taking only small sips. He tried to chip away at the boulder with his multi-tool, but the cheap metal blade barely scratched the surface of the dense rock. Hope began to fade with the daylight. Day 2 brought a new level of desperation. Thirst was becoming a constant, agonizing companion. He knew he was on a timer. Without water, the human body can only survive for a few days. He continued his futile efforts, trying to rig a pulley system with his ropes to lift the boulder. Nothing worked. The canyon walls, once a source of adventure, now felt like a tomb. By day 3, his water was gone. Dehydration set in, bringing confusion and hallucinations. He began recording goodbye messages to his family on his small camcorder, convinced he would not make it out alive. He pictured his own funeral, saw visions of his future son. He was beginning to accept his fate. The silence of the canyon was deafening, broken only by his own ragged breaths. On the 4th day, a terrifying thought, once unthinkable, began to form in his mind. It was an idea born from the deepest, most primal instinct to survive. He looked at his trapped arm, then at the small, dull blade on his multi-tool. Could he do it? The thought alone was horrifying. He tried to saw through his arm, but the blade was too weak to cut through bone. The pain was immense, the attempt a failure. He was starting to lose his mind to thirst and despair. Day 5 was the breaking point. He was out of water, out of food, and nearly out of hope. He knew he was dying. In a moment of grim clarity, he realized there was only one way out. He had to break the bones. Applying tourniquets made from his climbing gear, he used his body weight to snap his radius and ulna, the 2 bones in his forearm. The sound echoed in the narrow canyon, a sickening crack that signaled both a horrific act and a sliver of hope. With the bones broken, he took up the 2-inch blade of his multi-tool again. It wasn't sharp, but it was all he had. For an agonizing hour, he systematically cut through the skin, muscle, and tendons of his own arm. It was an act of sheer will, a brutal battle against his own body, driven by an unbreakable desire to live. Finally, he was free, covered in blood, severely dehydrated, and running on pure adrenaline. Aron still had to get out. He rappelled 65 feet down a cliff face with one arm, and then began the grueling 7-mile hike out of the canyon under the brutal desert sun. He was hallucinating, stumbling, but he kept moving forward. He knew if he stopped, he would die. Miraculously, after hiking for miles, he encountered a family on a trail. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. They gave him water and Oreos and immediately alerted the authorities. A helicopter was dispatched, and soon, Aron Ralston was airlifted to a hospital, 127 hours after his ordeal began. He had cheated death through an act of unimaginable courage and sacrifice. His story is a chilling, powerful reminder of what the human spirit is capable of when pushed to the absolute limit. Thanks for watching.